Hello everyone, Victor is here. So today I'd like to draw in my sketchbook, Sakura Sketchbook. It's appropriate for mixed media. It has quite a thick paper, 140 GSM. So you can use watercolor or markers. So I'm using this fine liner Rotring 0.7. It's quite thick. So I'll draw this structure from a reference photo I took in Krapets on Bulgarian seaside. I like this kind of objects found like lost and unused objects. So I'm starting with this like a cube, the top part of the structure. Then I'll do this line work directly without pencil under drawing. It's quite challenging, but with this approach I think it's better to look more and draw less. I mean to measure by eye and to be very decisive about where to put a line. So here is a curvilinear line. This is a part where the big wheel will go in the rear part of the tractor. So the wheel has a very intricate line or edge, so I'm trying to make like a pattern in a ellipsoid shape. I'm trying to make it as close to the subject. Inside is another ellipse. There are concentric ellipses that can be drawn. Also, there are some bolts and other details that can be suggested. Not all of them should be drawn. The pen I'm using is from Rotring. It's very economical, you can refill it. There is a container instead of the cartridges, and the ink is waterproof. On the left page you can see some ghosting from the previous sketch I did with some watercolor markers. It seems that applied with water it can be seen on the other page, but it doesn't bother me because I'll try to incorporate this stain of color in the current sketch. This method of drawing directly without pencil drawing has some risks because in this case I did a mistake with the perspective. I think the perspective lines are off. The front part of the tractor should be on another angle, not this one I drawn, but I'll accept this mistake and move on. This pen is very suitable on this paper because the surface of the paper is smooth and the pen glides very easily on this kind of paper. Adding other details, this is a fun part of the drawing when the general outline shape is already almost done. Now it's the fun part to fill in the largest shapes with inside details. The second rear wheel you can see on the bottom of the tractor. It can be seen from beneath of the view. Now there are some elements of the front part and the front second wheel. This is an A5 format sketchbook. I find it very suitable for me for sketching a location because it's easy to carry around. An A4 format I think would be too large to carry around and to sketch on location. Other details inside of the engine of the tractor, some pipes and elements of mechanism inside of the engine, adding small details. This tractor I found walking in the evening, and I like to draw cars and tractors and such complicated mechanisms. I try to simplify this view, eliminating the background to simplify the scene for this focal point on the tractor, adding some details inside of the tractor. Now that the general shape is outlined, is easier to fill in the details. So I think it's important when drawing, when starting a drawing, to pay attention measuring the outline and the general shape of an object. Then filling in the details is the easier part. I dated this sketch. It was in July 2021, adding bits of other details. Now adding some hatching to indicate some shadow and to create depth for this line work. I see there are some details I skipped, and I can see them now as the sketch progresses, adding these vertical lines for hatching, adding some dark part. I find very relaxing hatching and cross-hatching. At the beginning, I think this should be done very slowly to make sure the lines are parallel and have equal distance between them. Cross-hatching this round shape, and then the big wheel with such short strokes, suggesting the shape of the wheel. It gives this 3D effect, adding more vertical lines inside of the tractor, then filling in other parts. This is the fun part. I like it very much. Filling in other shapes. I'm very satisfied with this sketchbook because it stands watercolor very well. Also with watercolor markers, pen, and also it is quite cheap. I think I spent around 6 euros for this sketchbook, and being quite cheap, I'm not afraid to use it on daily basis. Usually when I use a more expensive sketchbook, I'm afraid to ruin it and postpone using such an expensive sketchbook, and I tend to be put off, and I'm not using so often those expensive sketchbooks, but this one is very can be used on daily basis. Also, I like the yellowish color of the paper. It's not white, bright white. So you can use a white gel pen on top of these drawings. I'll add some color for this sketch. I'll use watercolor markers made by Winsor & Newton. This raw sienna, it resembles yellow ochre. So I'll add on top of the line work this color. The colors are very bright. The ink that was used for this drawing is waterproof, so you can add watercolor or watercolor markers. This is also a fun part, coloring in. These markers have two tips, this brush tip, larger one, to make broad strokes, and they also have on the other side a small tip for details, and it has a harder tip that can be used also for line work. You can use water on top of these markers, and they will act like watercolor. This one, a blue one, also very bright and colorful. These markers are very convenient when sketching on location, because you don't have to carry around a whole set of watercolors, water, brushes. You just have a few of these markers in your backpack, and you're ready to add some color to your sketch. They are very light and don't take up so much space in your pen case. Adding now Payne's Gray. I like very much this color, it's very dark, and you can make shadow parts and dark parts. It covers very well, very opaque. As you can see, it covers even the previous lines. Even though I cross-hatched that part, now I'm covering it with this solid gray that resembles black. It has some blue shades, and that's why I like it also. I think the shade on the this wheel, then on the beneath part of that wheel. You don't need too many colors to make such a quick sketch. I think this raw sienna and this blue contrast well, adding more depth and dark tones inside of the engine to make the object pop up on page. Adding more dark shadow inside of the wheel. It's very relaxing to color in these shapes, and is satisfying after you've drawn them before. Adding some touches. You don't need to color in everything. The white parts means that is in the light, or they can suggest some highlights. Adding some shadow beneath the tractor. Now with the water brush I'm spreading the color. As you can see, this Payne's Gray acts very well with the water. Is like watercolor from a set. Then adding more shadow, so you can see that from that dark and opaque color it can get very light and very transparent. Adding some tone and color for the windows to suggest that they reflect the sky. Usually when painting glass, the glass reflects the color that is around it. So I painted with blue to suggest that it reflects the sky. Adding more tone on already wet surface, so it's a wet and wet technique, like painting with watercolors. Thank you for watching. Bye.